Welcome to the second day of the Goodyear FIA European Track Racing Championship in Zolder, Belgium. And you might be, what's going on with Lena? She's wearing a helmet, but there's no track racing, there's a bike. Yeah, actually all the drivers are allowed to go on the track by night to relearn and check it out again. And I was like, I'm gonna be crapping my chances and see if there's anyone on track. And as I have a really lovely bike, I really wanna go myself. So this is it for now, but qualifying number 2 is gonna be starting out soon. See you in a bit.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the 2023 Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And yes, indeed, welcome to Zolder in Belgium. This wonderfully pretty circuit welcomes us for our 6th race meeting of the season, rounds 21, 22, 23 and 24. My name is Chaz Draycott, commentating on the English live stream with my wonderful colleagues Joachim Eberts and Fonzie Cebrian on the German and Spanish live streams as well. When it comes to our race streams later on in the day for races 3 and 4 of the weekend, you can also tune in on international TV across many channels. We'll be welcoming all of our wonderful viewers from around the world there, as well as on our live streams too. As you see here though, the conditions again in Belgium are absolutely wonderful this morning, and we have been treated to some cracking weather, it must be said, here in this beautiful region. And the circuit is looking absolutely spot on. We're going to look back, though, at the highlights of race 2 yesterday, which was a very, very dramatic affair. So much going on. An interesting reverse grid where Norbert Kish was starting from near the back with the likes of Mark Taylor and Jamie Anderson after their issues in the first race, and an all-Scania front row of Stefan Faas and Heinrich Clemens Hecker. As the green flag waved and everybody got going on the formation lap, nobody could predict what was still to come, and opening the first couple of corners was a lot of drama. Stefan Faas went off all on his own, and then Heinrich Clemens Hecker went and did the same thing down at the Kleiner chicane, locking up the rear brakes and letting Antonio Albacete through to take the race lead. Norbert Kish and multiple others had made great progress through the pack. Unfortunately, though, for Sascha Lenz and Heinrich Clemens Hecker, their progress at the front of the field was halted with a collision at turn 3 that took them both out of the race. Norby was eyeing up Andre Kurzin for only about 3 corners, then he managed to get by and move on, chasing down the T-Sport Bernau number 23 of Antonio Albacete. The battles were rife in the middle of the pack, though, with Andre Kurzin putting in one hell of a defensive drive to keep back Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, Jochen Hahn and Jamie Anderson. It was great, great stuff to watch. Norby eventually did catch up with Antonio Albacete and overtake him, but in the background of our shots, Stefan Faas went off big time at turn 3 and put the truck into the barriers, just as Norby overtook Antonio for the race lead. Eventually, though, because of the truck being sat there in the gravel for so long, the race was red flagged and there was a countback, which meant Antonio Albacete was given the win. That, however, did not last because of penalties for Antonio to do with the start procedure, and gaining an advantage off the circuit demoted him back to 2nd place late last night. So Norbert Kish takes another race victory, and then Antonio Albacete is classified in 2nd place. So Norby now on 15 race victories for this season, and Antonio remains on 2, but still gets a podium for yesterday's troubles. The trucks are now just heading down towards the end of the pit lane to get qualifying underway. We have 2 sessions basically for this part of the day. We will have qualifying where everybody heads out onto the circuit and tries to set the best time they can. And then once we have decided who our top 10 drivers are in terms of the times, then the top 10 will go out again and their positions will be completely reset. They'll have a clean slate and then they get another chance to set a lap time, and that's what determines the top 10 positions. There is Steffi Halm giving us a wave. as she prepares for another busy day of racing. She certainly was in the thick of it again yesterday. Steffi always seems to find somebody on track to have a battle with and get involved with. It was really, really good entertainment, as always, from our female racing star. Antonio Albacete and the team there just making their way down the pit lane. So they all go down the pit lane and line up in championship order as of the time of the session. So you will see a number of drivers sort of getting asked to move over to one side like that. And then Norbert Kish will make his way down, I believe, to the front of the pack. Interesting story, though, between Norbert Kish and Antonio Albacete yesterday, with the two of them certainly hotly contesting that race lead. Norby wasn't too chuffed with some of Antonio's defending, and the two of them had a discussion about it. They were still fine and all dandy on the podium. Very professional as always, though, of course. But the main thing to think about between those two is the fact that they are teammates in this championship. So there is a teams championship here in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship. And two of them that are teamed up together are Norbert Kish and Antonio Albacete as Revesh and T-Sport. They were Team Titan a couple of seasons ago, and they are currently the reigning teams champions as well. There is Norbert Kish in the number 1 MAN. It was a great drive yesterday from 13th on the grid to eventually take the race victory for Norby. Another sign of just how quick he is. And he managed to avoid a lot of the dramas and chaos in the opening lap as well, which was key to getting a result yesterday. It certainly shook up the field. There is Sasha Lenz in 3rd position. You can also see some of the T-Sport Benau team members just hanging out in the garages there, waiting for everybody to line up. And we're going to go back down into the pit lane itself, and we're going to speak to Lena, who's got a great first-hand view of everything that's going on.
Yeah, warm welcome from my side as well. Freshly showered and back on track. And as you can see, qualifying is about to get started pretty soon. And I was like, I have to show you. So the guys are starting out by the points they're currently having in the championship. Meaning right now Norbert Kish, of course, will be starting out as first to have the best chances to have a free lap possible. And most of the guys, as you already know, because you know it better than I do, they mostly take like 3 laps, and if the time really fits what they're seeking for, they're already coming back for Super Pole. So yeah, let the race begin. And this is it from down here. Back to you, Chad.
Thank you, Lena. Yes, indeed. So they go out in championship order, and it really pays to have that championship position, because at the end of the day, as Lena mentioned there, you get a clean track in front of you, so you've just got free rein to do whatever you need to do. And a lot of drivers, they tend to back off in this part of the session now when they make their way out onto the track, because they just want to give themselves as much space as possible. John Newell there with Mark Taylor and Jonathan Andre behind. It's good to have Jonathan back with us again. He unfortunately had a lap time deleted yesterday in the first part of qualifying, which was his only valid fast lap actually. So the time that was then drawn was his outlap time, which didn't meet the minimum requirement, so he was disqualified from qualifying because of that, but still was allowed to start from the back of the grid. He was feeling very confident yesterday. Lena had a chat with him in the morning, and he seemed really happy with how things were going. He's finding more and more pace in the truck all of the time, and he's racing in the French Truck Racing Championship as well, so he's a busy boy over the course of the year, and the Lion Truck Racing team as well. But now the drivers make their way down towards the Kleiner chicane for the first time. They're not going to be at full pelt right now. They're just going to be waiting and just managing the temperatures, managing every element of their trucks to get them in a perfect operating window before they can then go flat out for a fast qualifying time. There's also no point pushing too hard in this opening stage, because you don't want to wear the tyres out either. The Goodyear rubber that we run in this championship seems very, very durable, though. The pace and the overall feel of the tyre, by the look of the way the trucks behave anyway, certainly does stay with them throughout the whole race. And if you think about it, those tyres have to go through a heck of a lot of torture in these races, because there is so much weight being moved around over the top of them and it's being applied really aggressively to the sides of the tyre as well. That's one of the most important parts here, is the way that the tyre moulds and bends in every single corner. These trucks are 5.3 tonnes minimum weight, and there's over 3 tonnes of that measured over the front axle of them. They've got nearly 1,200 horsepower in some cases, and nearly 6,000 newton meters of torque. It's remarkable numbers from nearly 13-litre 6-cylinder diesel engines with one colossal turbocharger on them. And it was a colossal turbocharger failure yesterday that cost Norbert Kish that first race victory. He was going down the start-finish straight when it let go in a very dramatic cloud of smoke. Norby crosses the line and gets the session underway in terms of the fast laps. Jochen Hahn following him, then Sascha Lenz, Antonio Albacete and Andre Kurzim, who has jumped back up into 5th place in the championship after his battle with Steffi Halm got very close. Andre getting a podium yesterday afternoon in race 2. There is Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. He had a fantastic qualifying session yesterday, qualifying 4th overall and eventually finishing the first race in 3rd place outright as well. The young star has been absolutely on it this season in the Promoters' Cup, leading the way over Stefan Faas. Stefan having a bit of a bad day yesterday, I'm afraid, so he's dropped a bunch of points to him. Stefan's just behind him on track there, though. You can see the red and black number 24 Tankpool 24 machine. And then Heinrich Clemens Hecker with them as well. It's good to see that after the incidents that we had yesterday, we haven't lost any trucks from the field. That's one of the most important things. A lot of the teams and drivers, they all work together so well to make sure that we don't lose anybody from the paddock over the course of a race weekend. It's only in special circumstances, really, where we have a very big accident where anything may occur like that. Look at Most last time out as an example. Mark Taylor and the team, unfortunately, were unable to repair the truck at the circuit itself because of damage to the roll cage, so they needed to get it back to Sasha's workshop and get it worked on. And everybody has come together so well to get Mark's truck back and ready for this race weekend. It's such a wonderful feeling to have a full complement of drivers on the grid again. So it seems like Sascha Lenz has had an issue on his lap there because he'd slowed down and he was now behind Andre Kurzim on the circuit as they went through shot. Antonio Albacete has crossed the line, or is about to cross the line, I should say. Norbert Kish has crossed the line and done a 1:56.497, so if that doesn't tell you that the conditions are good, I don't know what will, because I'm pretty sure they were doing 57s yesterday. Antonio Albacete goes second fastest, but 8.5 tenths off what Norby's done. I'll try and find the qualifying times from yesterday. Let's see what the pole time was. It was a 1:56.6 from Norby in Super Pole, a 1:57.4 in yesterday's qualifying session, and he's just done a 1:56.4. So yeah, much quicker the track conditions today. Albacete second, Jochen Hahn third, then it's Steffi Halm, Jose Eduardo Rodriguez next up. Pretty sure that what we saw coming off Sascha Lenz's truck there was just dust from the outside of the circuit and not smoke. I'm hoping for their sake that it wasn't smoke either, because we saw how big a turbocharger failure can be yesterday with Norbert Kish. It looked like the red arrows had culminated together and got rid of their Hawk trainer aircraft and decided to buy an MAN. But Norby will be very happy with that. We often see in this session that they will come back in and get ready for Super Pole. If they know that they've got a lap time that'll get them through this top 10, then they will come into the pit lane and they'll just sit on it. They'll just wait. There's no point putting the truck and the driver through extra strain and extra hard work if you're not at risk of falling outside the top 10. At this point, the positions within the top 10 will only change which order they then go out for Super Pole in. So Jose Eduardo Rodriguez will be pretty happy because that puts him 5th and means that he's going to be in the middle of the pack as they head out onto the circuit for Super Pole. But there's nothing really wrong with that, to be honest, because they will all figure out their own bit of clear air and their own bit of clean space. It's a bit of a longer session, this one as well, 20 minutes for qualifying in the Goodyear FIA European Truck Racing Championship, and then we get 10 minutes for Super Pole. So the drivers, you will see, have to get on it a bit more quickly in the secondary session. They tend to just let the truck get back into that operating window that I mentioned and then go again for a better time. Jochen Hahn, I think, will go for another one here. because he's third place, but he's 9/10 off Norbert Kish. Steffi Halm up there in fourth place doing well. Jamie Anderson's not been as quick as he usually is so far this weekend. He'll be hoping for a bit more out of this qualifying session. It seems like some of the Promoters Cup drivers there are also pushing on to try and improve their times. At the moment, Louis Riquenco is going through into Superpole, while Heinrich Clemens Hecker, Mark Taylor and Jonathan Andre are not. Sasha Lenz has not put a valid time on the board by the look of it either. He is not appearing anywhere on our timing tower at this moment in time. There's some of the wonderful photographers that are based in many different posts around here at Zolder. It's a fantastic circuit for photography, I'm told. Good friend of mine who is a photographer in Belgium, Thomas Smets, always does a lot of pictures here, and he's certainly a fan of the place. He's stood in many torrential conditions, though. There was a picture that he sent me a long time ago of a TCR car going around turn 1, and you can't see the curb because the water is that high. It's remarkable. But we've got a lot of fans back out once again for the truck racing. It's always lovely to have more of them coming to our events, I should say. One of the best things about truck racing is that whenever you do go and see it in person, is you always see at least a group of fans that are having their first day out at the truck racing. They've never experienced it before, and you can just see them thinking, what on earth? Like, who thought of this? It's so crazy when you see it in person. It's really, really entertaining. I was lucky enough to take a bunch of my family members down to Donington Park for a round of the British Truck Racing Championship, where we watched the International Truck Prix as well, where the European Truck Racing Championship was represented by John Newell, Jamie Anderson and Mark Taylor, and our guys did a fantastic job there. But even then, yeah, my family were looking at it thinking, this is absolutely crazy. It's great stuff. So Sasha Lenz is now on a lap. You can see he's pretty much on his own here, just pushing on. We've got John Newell, who's inside the top 10. He'll be happy with that for the moment, but he'll want to be putting laps in to still improve, because there's only 2/10 back to Heinrich Clemens Hecker in 11th position outside of the top 10, and then, of course, importantly, outside of Superpole. And there's been... okay, so Sasha Lenz's lap time was cancelled for hitting a penalty marker, and the number 24 of Stefan Fass is having his lap time cancelled for overspeeding. As there goes Sasha Lenz up into 4th place now, 1.4 seconds off Norbert Kish still, but I'm sure he'll be much happier with that 1:57.9 than the lap time that he put in earlier on. He's still a good 3 and a bit tenths of a second ahead of Steffi Halm as well there, as Mark Taylor now hops up into 9th place, and this is exactly why John Newell has to stay out there and try and put in a faster time, because he's so under threat with just a 1/10 of a second between himself and other drivers. And look at that, it's about half a 1/10 of a second between himself and Louis Riquenco. Seems like some work needs doing here on Andre Kurzim's machine. Not as much fluid coming out of it as we saw at Most, though, after the contact at the start of race 2. The entire front end was gone. There's nothing you can't fix with a hammer, right? That's one of the positives of truck racing for these teams, is because the machines are so huge and so high off the ground in a lot of places, you can get to almost every part of the truck from the outside of it. It's very, very easy to work on in some respects, but obviously everything is bigger in truck racing. Sasha Lenz continuing to push on though with his lap times, maybe hoping to improve again here. I think he was actually... I was going to say chilling out on this one, but I think he's having to push on again. Someone that is going to push on again today is the man that's currently second. That's Antonio Albacetti, and he is with Lena.
Now, go!
Antonio!
So the mechanics are the best fans of the drivers, and this is Antonio Albacetti. And he had quite a day yesterday. He had a really nice second race, and then we had a red flag, and it wasn't sure for quite a while if he was second or first. He was celebrated being the first, and then he got some punish points for other stuff, and then he ended up being second. But in the end, it's like 1 point difference. So how are you feeling today? And do you leave yesterday behind, or are you still mad about it?
Yeah, yesterday was a lot of up and downs, so now I think we have to forget about yesterday. focus on today. Yeah, I mean, I feel good, but you have to do it now on the Super Bowl, you know. So I will try not to make any mistakes like yesterday, and let's see. I mean, I would like to start in the front row. It's going to be difficult because even Sacha, even Han, they are very fast. But of course, we will try. So I hope to start in the front row.
All right, we were wondering beforehand, if you do the qualifying, what's the minimum laps you do to get the timing you're like looking for, and then you come back to wait for the Super Bowl? How many laps do you normally do?
Well, I mean, normally if you do one lap and it's a good lap, you know, and you are happy with the lap, just one lap, you know. We try to keep the tires new as we can for the Super Bowl. So with one lap normally is enough.
Okay, you collected very important points yesterday, so good luck for today, collecting more points. And back to you, Chaz, from a very hot racetrack.
I was going to say, it looks very, very hot at the moment. It really does. But that's exactly what we want, really, because usually at Zolder it's always raining and it's always cold and windy and all sorts. It certainly makes the racing exciting and throws drivers around in different orders to what we usually see. But at the same time, who doesn't love a sunny weekend at a racetrack, eh? It's always a fantastic place to be. There is the number 3 machine of Sasha Lenz after he comes back into the pits. Currently 4th position at the moment. That doesn't settle anything right now, or doesn't mean a lot other than the fact that he is going to be into Super Pole, and that's where he's going to be going back out on the track when that session gets underway. There is Stefan Fast making his way back out onto the circuit. 6 minutes left to go here in qualifying, and he needs to get a move on now to get a lap on the board. We're going to speak to another man that was very quick yesterday in practice and qualifying. He's doing okay today. Jose Eduardo Rodriguez is down there with Lena.
And seems to be very content with the timing he had so far in the qualifying. So how are you feeling today? He is actually leading the Promoters Cup. So are you seeking for more points, and what's your plan for today? Because you did really good yesterday.
Yeah, I'm feeling good in this track. I'm very focused in the good time in the quali, and we'll see. I'm very focused in the race 1, and I'm very happy with this result yesterday, and we'll see.
Yeah, you did a really good job. You became 3rd in total yesterday in the first race. So good luck for today. See you on the podium again. Maybe he already has so many trophies. Last time I got to park next to him and his team, and he like keeps all the trophies in the front team's track. So this looks really nice and shiny. So let's see if some more will add up this weekend. Cheers, back to you.
Thank you, Lena. Yes, it's always an interesting walk through the paddock just to see how everyone prepares everything, and the way that the teams and drivers present themselves and their racing trucks is just awesome. The level in this championship is so high. You know, they are just immaculate machines. Over the course of a weekend, sure, you might see the odd battered bumper here and there, a few zip ties maybe, and some gaffer tape on them. But it certainly adds to the aesthetic that the trucks get thrown around and used so much over the course of a weekend. And it doesn't take 2 and 2 to make 4 that often. Well, that's the stupid phrase, isn't it, Chaz? Anyway, Lena's with Andrei Kurzim. I was going to say it's not easy for me to put 2 and 2 together usually, but I can see that Lena's there right now. So down to Lena.
Yeah, and to Andrei Kurzim, who has done a fantastic job yesterday defending what's been going on behind him. So how are you feeling today? And I really hope to see you back, because you and Steffi, you have very close points in the championship right now. Are you aware of that?
Yes, yesterday was a very good day for us. Podium in the second race, and now hopefully we can do it again today. And we are in the big fight with Steffi on the position 5 in the championship, and hopefully we do it until Jarama. Now we have 6 points. We are 6 points in front, I think so. And yes, hopefully we can get more and more. And after Jarama, we are on the 5th position.
All right. So see you back on track, and hear you back, Chaz.
Thank you, Lena. We've got a little battle going on the circuit right now, actually, which is quite an interesting one. Stefan Fast right behind Jonathan Andre as they come out of the Kleiner chicane over Sacrament Schelling at the crest, and the two of them are chasing each other at this moment in time. I feel like maybe Stefan has gone onto a fast lap and Jonathan Andre isn't quite as quick as him on this lap, and Stefan's now sat behind. It's not really a sort of championship or a racing discipline where you tend to use slipstream or anything like that in qualifying, so this isn't something that will be benefiting Stefan Faas right now, because he won't be able to brake exactly where he wants to, and if anything, he's at risk of maybe getting a little bit of slipstream and overspeeding down some of the straights here. And when you get to that speed limit, all you're doing is just sucking in all of the hot air from the truck in front of you. So that's not something that you want. Looks nice and calm down there in the pit lane once again, though. Everybody just sitting and waiting. Doors open, of course, to allow whatever breeze they can into the cabs. But with just over 2 minutes left to go now, we have Stefan Faas and Jonathan Andre coming around the final corner. Jamie Anderson moving out of the way there. Maybe Jamie feeling like he had to abandon that lap somewhat. Stefan Faas moving over to the left-hand side. So too is Jonathan Andre. And Stefan goes up into 9th place. And that puts Heinrich Clemens Hecker down into 10th position. Jonathan Andre is 11th. Mark Taylor and Louis Requenco are out of it now. And look at just how close it is. John Newell now finds himself in 14th position at the bottom of the pile. That's how quickly it can change here. 30 thousandths of a second between Requenco and Newell as well in 13th and 14th. But Heinrich Clemens Hecker is once again in a position to go through into Superpole. So is this man here, Stefan Faas, moving up into 9th place, second fastest in the Promoters' Cup at the moment. Jonathan Andre has had a lap time cancelled for hitting a penalty marker. So too has Jamie Anderson. So Jamie finds himself in 8th position. And yeah, Jonathan Andre drops back down into 14th position. I wasn't sure whether it was that lap they were going to cancel or the one before it, based on when the notification came through. As you see by the green section on the left-hand side of your screen, though, they are all the drivers that will currently be going through into the Superpole session. So the top 10 runners and riders will be now going into a second session, so to speak, that will reshuffle those top 10. So the only positions that will get cemented here will be the ones 11th, 12th, 13th and 14th. John Newell has improved on his lap time, and then Louis Requenco goes and improves as well, puts John back into 13th place. It's very close between those guys, though. Look at that, less than 0.2 of a second. There is Mark Taylor in the number 81 machine. Hard onto the brakes now. Into the Kleiner chicane once more. Mark really pushing on now, trying to get everything he can out of this truck. It's been a difficult weekend for the team so far. Of course, the truck only just put back together as of Thursday, so there's certainly a lot of gremlins for them to work out, but they're doing a great job at sticking with it and really cracking on with getting the truck all fixed and ready. It's all developing over the course of the weekend for them as the season begins to get onto its own start-finish straight, as we see the checkered flag in sight with 2 more race meetings left this year. But Mark and the guys have had a great season so far in the Promoters' Cup, and they got some silverware for their troubles yesterday as well. They joined good friend John Newell on the podium in the category with Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, who has been absolutely flying this weekend. He's really taken to Zolder like a duck to water, must be said. And there's Jamie Anderson coming into the pit lane. So he's in 8th position, so he feels confident that he's going to stay there for now and make it through into Superpole, and then push on to do his best in that session. You can just see John Newell in the background there, just making his way down towards the final chicane. Here comes Mark Taylor out of the final corner. His best lap time at the moment is a 2 minutes .152. And the lap time is just completed there is a 2 minutes .924. So unfortunately, no improvement there for Mark Taylor. Doesn't go through to Superpole on this occasion, but remains in 12th position ahead of Newell and Jonathan Andre. Looking at what John Newell's time is as he's about to cross the line. He's done a 2 minutes .192 at the moment as his best, only 40 thousandths of a second off Mark Taylor, and it doesn't look like he's improved on his time actually. His previous lap was his best one. We're going to go back down to Lena though, who's got the atmosphere down there in the pit lane.
Yeah, and Kevin, the engineer of Sasha Lenz, who's already like totally focusing on Superpole. You must, like the whole team must have been super mad about yesterday. So many points lost, I think 8 points in total. So what's your strategy for today? And how are you feeling today? Like, is he like more aggressive driving today or like more calmly?
Yes, for sure. That was yesterday not our plan. So head up, and today is a new day. So the Superpole was good, and now see what we bring.
Okay, so you're not giving up, you just see how this day goes. I really keep my fingers crossed because he had his 250th race yesterday and the second race, and we were already celebrating him to be collecting more points. And then you know for yourself, you have seen the race, what happened. He has been out, missed on all the points. So let's see how Superpole goes, and let's see how he will be racing today. Okay, let's go. We are ready for Superpole.
Okay then, so the trucks will now line up towards the end of the pit lane in the order that they just finished that session, and then they will head out for a 10-minute quickfire session for Superpole. This will sort out just the top 10 drivers now, so everybody outside of the top 10, Requenco, Taylor, Newell and Andre, will stay there. That is their session done now for qualifying this morning. Now the rest of the drivers will make their way out to reshuffle that top 10 order, so they've got to try and do it all again. That's what's the extra tough part of qualifying for these drivers at the top end of the order, is they have to go and do it all again while the others get a chance to take the trucks back into the paddock, back into the pit lane, and obviously work on them and get them prepared for the race a little bit later on. A lot of fans on the banking all ready to get this underway. You can see Tim Frost running down there to speak to Antonio just before the session begins. It was Tim that you saw earlier on shouting Antonio. He is definitely Antonio's biggest fan, is Tim. But he does a hell of a lot of work, does that man. I don't think I've ever seen Tim standing still, really, to be honest with you. He maybe stood still right now, but yeah, he's definitely a bloke that's always got his mind racing. He's constantly switched onto it all. I'm told that there is a slight delay, actually, apparently to recover the number 18 machine. So, not sure if John Newell has actually gone off the circuit, or whether he's just had an issue with the truck and it's broken down somewhere on the track. But unfortunately, John Newell's truck needing recovering at this moment in time, so there will be a delay to the session. A lot of the engineers and pit crews will go down to their trucks and their drivers and get the doors open, let a bit of a breeze in, because it is very, very hot there. Young fans as well at the circuit, fans of all ages, always come to the truck racing. At the end of the day, trucks are just cool, aren't they? So, of course, bring the kids along to the events, and I'm sure they will absolutely love it. You can see John Newell's team just making their way down the pit lane there. Rafael Godchik and Terry Gibbon walking down. I felt like I'd really missed a trick a long time ago when I last saw Terry, because I never realised that he'd actually raced in this championship as well in the past. So I was beating myself up about not knowing my history of Terry's competition when he suddenly turned around to me and said that he had a truck there with him. He had his own race truck. I was thinking that he meant that he'd just built the thing and someone else was driving it, but no, Terry was actually racing the thing. So I apologise to him profusely for that, but it's always good to see him in the team. Really looking forward to getting back to the paddock. I will be on site next at the final race meeting of the season at Harama. And there is John Newell's truck behind the barrier. So, not a clue what has gone on there, whether he's had an off, or it looks like he's just pulled over to one side there, because that grass and the barriers over that side of the circuit go out way further than that to the left-hand side. So it certainly looks like he's not gone that far off the track. He's just pulled over to one side, and he is at the final chicane, which will be labelled here as the Jackie X-Bocht, just before the start-finish straight, denoted by the little white line there. But as you see, it's not a very simple circuit at all, is Zolder. It's a very, very twisty and tight layout with some serious chicane work to be done, and the Boulderberg Haarspelt Bocht, which is the final hairpin before the run down to said Jackie Ixbocht. The first corner is really difficult too because it's a long sweeping left-hander. On the map there, it doesn't really do justice to how wide the exit of that corner is, because you can run out very wide and you've just got to be really careful not to clip that edge gravel with the right rear wheel as you get on the power. The Sterivact Bocht as well, the second right-hander, then the Canal Bocht and Lucien Bianchi Bocht, puts a lot of strain on that front left tyre in these racing trucks. You have to be absolutely on it round there and careful of all your gear changes. As soon as you go up through the gears in these racing trucks, they love to snatch the rear axle, spin up the rears, and it's almost like the back end hops off the ground because of the colossal amount of torque that they have. They can be real feisty machines when you get your foot down and go flying up the gears. We've got this lovely bridge-mounted camera here at Sacrament Schelling, looking down on the action as all the fans make their way down. We're going to go and speak to Jonathan Andre now. He was enthusiastic yesterday. He's going to speak to Lena again. Let's see how his mood is today.
Yeah, Jonathan Andre, the French guest driver in this field for this weekend, and we already had a short chance to be speaking yesterday. You were like, okay, I'm here to learn, to experience more my truck, to also see how the others are doing. So how are you seeing today in the field?
Today is better than yesterday. I was 1 second faster in qualification. Unfortunately, I touched a marker and my lap time was cancelled, but it's first time I go under 2 minutes. I'm 1:55.9, I think. It's really better than yesterday. If lap time not cancelled, it will be place 11, but it's race, I make a mistake, I assume.
Yeah, we learned that Zolder is a track where you should barely or almost have no mistakes, or better, no mistakes, because this is really like a punishing racetrack. So what's your biggest learning in a weekend like that? More about how the truck works, or how the track is like, or like your personal driving style maybe?
My biggest thing to progress is to feel the difference between the setup in quali and the setup in race. In quali we have different setup, different braking, different grip, and I have not enough experience at the moment to be very fast in the first lap. I need 2 or 3 laps to be fast, and I need to improve.
Okay, well, this is what racing is like. You're learning and learning and learning, so I'll let you go get ready again. We still have a couple of minutes until the next race or the qualifying will get started. And come with me, because we have one Spanish guy who really is always fighting through. Oh, he's not here. I really wanted him to say some Spanish words to the Spanish fans, because we also have like Mr. or Spanish commentator. Okay, no. So this is not working right now. I will do it later on. Chess, back to you. There's only empty seats down here.
Yeah, unfortunately, Louis Requenco not around for a word there, but we still get a fantastic angle from here of that gorgeous Iveco S-Way. I really do love that thing. It looks fantastic in the new S-Way bodywork, and it's not got a very busy livery on it either. I do love a racing machine that is absolutely covered in logos and sponsors and looks very busy and full, but at the same time, you have to love a sort of clean, sleek design like we have on Louis Requenco's number 64 truck in the background there, and that dark green colour is very tasty indeed. As you see though, all of the trucks lined up at the end of the pit lane, ready to go. The fans are all excited as well about the racing to come. And we have the qualifying session in just a moment, and I'm told that Lena has found Louis Requenco.
Fonsi Cebrian, our Spanish commentator, this is for you and all the fans out there that are watching from Spain. Here are some words to the Spanish truck racing fans.
No sé ni qué me has preguntado, no lo sé, pero bueno, me lo estoy pasando bien aquí en Zolder. Bueno, un fin de semana, bueno, un poco progresando, probando y la verdad es que bueno, un clima magnífico y muchísima gente, mucho espectador.
Muy rápido.
Muy rápido, sí.
Sí. Okay, that's the only Spanish I know when it comes to racing. Gracias. Okay, back to you, Chess.
Lovely stuff. Gracias indeed, Louis Requenco. Fantastic gentleman indeed to have in the paddock. Always a wonderful character to have around. And a certain staple of truck racing as well. He's been doing this for a long, long time now, has Louis. But we now get a word that the session will potentially restart at 11:42 local time, which will be in 3 minutes' time. So I know that the drivers and teams will be very happy about that, because it is scorching hot down there at Zolder right now. Even here in the UK, it's still another hot start to the day. It's 24 degrees Celsius where I am right now in the northwest, and it's only 10:30 in the morning. Oh, look at the old DAF as well. I love a bit of that. It's fantastic stuff. The old recovery truck there doing its job as John Newell's MAN gets brought in. Not quite sure if it was just a mechanical failure or whether John put it off pushing really hard on that final lap. I doubt he would have gone that far off if it would have been a little mistake just kicking the back end out there. So maybe just a mechanical that has stopped him getting all of the power out of the final corner. They've taken the front bumper off completely to help obviously get the lift underneath there. And hopefully not too much of a drama for John and the team to fix for later on. I'll see whether I can get an update from those guys and give you all then an update on what's going on and what needs fixing. But thanks as always to our officials and marshals and all of the recovery teams and everybody around the circuit that helps the meeting run as smoothly as possible. We know that everything is bigger in truck racing. I've joked about this before with the fact that sometimes if we do have a big off or we have anything that needs recovering, sometimes the delay is quite big as well, because it's usually a much bigger operation than dragging something like, I don't know, something like an MX-5 out of a gravel trap, for example, where you can do it with one hand. So, everybody's still waiting for the session to get underway. Even a bit of fanning going on there, actually, for Sasha Lenz's crew as they wave the door around to make sure they get some sort of a breeze into Sasha's cab. And it looks like the drivers and teams are all ready to go now as the doors get closed, and they will get the engine started. And we will have Superpole, the second Superpole session of the weekend. It was Norbert Kish and Jochen Hahn that locked out the front row yesterday. Antonio Albacete has done what he did yesterday as well. Qualifying at the start of the day was really, really good, and he went second fastest. Maybe in this session he can stick to that second place and get the overall second position on the grid for the race later on. Interesting shot there of one of the mounts for the rear wheel arch just wiggling around there under the massive vibrations that get generated by these trucks. They are literal rolling earthquakes, these racing trucks. They have such a unique sound about them. I said this again yesterday, that they don't have a high-pitched scream like a V12 engine or, you know, a low, beefy, rumbly V8, but they have this middle ground. It's just a roar. That's the best way to describe it. They really do roar, the racing trucks. It's a very shouty noise, a real mid-range sound. It's always great to listen to. But yeah, again, if you've never seen truck racing in the flesh, I implore you to do so, just for the noise alone. When you have one of these things flying past you, especially when you're on the same side as the exhaust as well. Mainly racing trucks have their exhausts on the right-hand side. If you're on the right-hand side of them and they come flying past you at full throttle, it is remarkable. There's not many racing machines louder, I have to say. But right now, the rolling thunderstorm itself makes its way around the first couple of corners down towards Lucien Bianchi-Bocht, and it is Norbert Kish ahead of Antonio Albacete, Jochen Hahn and then Sasha Lenz, with Steffi Halm in 5th position. Then it's Jose Eduardo Rodriguez and Andre Kurzim, Jamie Anderson next up, Stefan Faas and Heinrich Clemens Hecker. And once again, we will have the drivers just taking their time with the opening laps just to get everything dialed in, make sure everything is operating properly, and that they can get the tyres and all the fluids and everything within the truck up to a decent temperature for a fast lap. Of course, the trucks can keep that up for a race that lasts almost 25 minutes. But in terms of the qualifying, you want to be able to have everything as perfect as possible before you go on to a fast lap. I've had a word from the wonderful Steve Miller as well. Always good to hear from Steve. He's become my roaming reporter down there in the paddock, bless him. He's just sent me a message saying that the issue with John Newell's truck was a rose joint went bang on his last lap, and John was apparently, according to the Delta, 1.1 seconds up and heading for 8th position in qualifying. That would have been fantastic for John and the team. They would have loved that after what's been another difficult weekend. But unfortunately, the truck has let go towards the end of his lap there, and that's a real shame. But thanks again to Steve for letting me know. It's always great to have. Like I say, the whole one truck family ethos goes all the way through, even into my work as well. So many people letting me know and giving me as much information as possible. There is Tim Frost recording footage for the T-Sport Bernau vlog, which will be on their YouTube channel at some point, I'm sure. I know that yesterday will be an interesting one to watch for them. Obviously, Antonio taking the win on the circuit. Taking the win after the countback, after being overtaken by Norby. So he got the win, and then he got the win taken off him again after the penalties. But you saw Antonio earlier on, everybody. He was in high spirits, ready for today. He's been around the block as Antonio. He knows the racing inside and out by now. He's a very experienced gentleman, a lovely bloke. And you could see that he was in a positive mindset for today, looking forward to what racing they could get done. As Jose Eduardo Rodriguez across the line. He makes his way onto a fast lap, and Norby is pushing now on the exit of the Lucien Bianchi box. The right-hander, it gets much narrower there on the exit. This straight is about a third, maybe 2/3 of the width of the corner before it. So the apex comes at you really quickly around there because the edge of the circuit just closes in. It's a very interesting circuit in that way, that it does get a lot wider and narrower in certain parts. The exit of the Kleine chicane is very wide, and then it goes narrow again down here into the Villeneuve chicane. Turleman box is one of the narrowest parts of the circuit. There's not really any overtaking done here unless drivers really want to compromise themselves and have a scrap, basically. And then down towards the Boulderberg box, which is the hairpin at the bottom of the track. It's great to have some of these static cameras for this weekend as well. Really gives you a sort of wide angle perspective of how quickly the trucks are moving and how much of the beautiful scenery they are carving their way through at this place. Look at that shot there as they make their way down the hill, through all the trees, into the chicane, and then off to stage left. Especially with the sun shining here at Zolder, it's just marvellous to look at, isn't it? So Norbert Kish out of the final corner then, and across the line he goes, sticks over to the left-hand side for the shortest run to the line, and the lap time he's done is a 1:56.310. A very, very solid lap indeed that is by Norbert Kish. Let's have a look at what time Antonio Albacete does. It's not actually come through on my timing screen, but it does show on the left-hand side for you wonderful viewers at home, actually. 1:57.147 for him. Jochen Hahn goes just in front with a 1:57.1, and then Sascha Lenz goes just in front of him with a 1:57.07. Very close for second, third and fourth, and they are the second, third and fourth place drivers in the championship as well. And I can tell you, in terms of a race lap record, Norbert Kish is the actual driver that owns that lap record at the moment, and it was a 1:57.180. He's just done a 1:56.3 in qualifying. Now, lap records usually in motorsport are taken from the race itself, because it's always in a race scenario that they do that rather than any other sort of session. But Norby is very, very close to that lap record time, and he set that back in 2015 here at Zolder. Looking at the lap times, though, after the first round, let's say, they sometimes go on and do more fast laps. It's Norbert Kish from Sascha Lenz. He's clear by over 3/4 of a second. Then it's Jochen Hahn and Antonio Albacete. Steffi Halm ahead of Jose Eduardo Rodriguez. Andre Kurzim and Stefan Fass on row 4. And then Jamie Anderson in 9th place ahead of Heinrich Clemens Hecker in the second of the Scanias inside our top 10. They now just wind it down for a lap and then prepare to go again and do as fast a lap as possible. This is the thing, really. Sometimes we call it getting a banker lap in, just to make sure that you've got a safe and decent high-speed lap time in to then fall back on, just in case another lap later on doesn't go that well. We've had a black and orange flag, apparently, for the number 25 of Heinrich Clemens Hecker for black smoke. So part of the championship's sustainability methods is the fact that we run on 100% renewable HVO biodiesel. And there are observers and lambda sensors and all sorts of measures to make sure that there are no emissions that don't really meet the ethos of the championship being emitted from the trucks. And if there is, then obviously they get brought into the pit lane itself. And there is our lovely graphic reminding you of said HVO diesel. Reduces up to 95% of the emissions from our racing, and the drivers don't see a difference in terms of the performance, and they don't need to modify the engines or do anything really drastic to make them run on said HVO diesel as well. That's the best thing about it. They can just, it's literally a plug and play fuel that reduces the emissions massively. It seems like the 25 of Heinrich Clementecker has had lap time removed as well for the fact that he had that black smoke infringement. I imagine he'll be coming into the pit lane to try and sort that out. Lovely shot there from the start-finish straight pit wall. They get very close to the end of it and then swoop their way around turn one. Hats off to the cameraman for capturing that one. You can see a little bit of dust getting kicked up there by Stefan Faas. That there is Jochen Hahn making his way round the Lucien Bianchi box. I think Heinrich Clementecker has crossed the start-finish line to receive the black and orange flag this time round, so he may pop back into the pits after this one. There is Jochen Hahn, though, six-time champion Jochen coming into this season. 285 podiums and 118 race victories to his name. That was Norbert Kish just a moment ago, who I'm sure will be chasing race win number 100 before too long. He's on 94 wins now as of yesterday, and 187 podium appearances. He's got 4 titles and 59 pole positions, chasing the record of this man here, Jochen Hahn, who has 67 pole positions in his time in the championship. But Norby currently on a 100% pole position record for this season. All 11 pole positions have gone his way so far, and it looks like he's about to make that 20, sorry, I was thinking of how many races there were, not 24, but number 12, of course, with this being the day for rounds 23 and 24 of the 2023 season. Jochen Hahn then round the final corner, over the crest of the hill. I love that shot as they fly towards us out of the final corner. Is there any improvement? Yes, there is. It's a 156.897 for Jochen Hahn. Sascha Lenz does a 157.4, so he doesn't improve. What about Steffi Halm? Does she go any quicker? No. She does a 158.2, and her best time's a 157.8. And no improvement for Jose Eduardo Rodriguez either. Jamie Anderson crosses the line and improves to go ahead of Stefan Faas. He's done a 158.1, so he takes himself a good 0.4 of a second ahead of Stefan Faas. It's close between Jose Eduardo Rodriguez and Andre Kurzim, even closer actually between Kurzim and Anderson, because they've done identical lap times. A 158.133 for the pair of them, I've just realised. Amazing stuff. I think because Andre set the time first, he is the one that sits in front, and of course there could be the chance that it does get measured to a 10,000th of a second. It's just that we don't get to see those extra numbers, we just get the thousandths from this point. There's Sascha Lenz pushing on. I think he feels like he could do another lap. Some of these drivers actually crossed the line before the checkered flag came out, so they'll still have chance to improve their times. Changing down through the gears. Stefan Faas pushing on. Quite a bit of smoke came out the back of the truck there, but usually you can see a lot of steam coming out of them as they slam on the brakes. The water-cooled brakes generate a lot of steam from behind the cab. It comes out from underneath the front wheel arches and sort of heads inwards to where the engine bay is. And we've had a deletion of Antonio Albasetti's relevant lap time to a lap where he hit a penalty marker. Could that have been his previous lap time? Because that wasn't actually his fastest time, that one. And we're getting the same for Jochen Hahn as well, truck number 2. Is that going to knock him back down behind Sascha Lenz? Is Sascha Lenz going to improve and go up to second fastest? He is not, or yes he is, apologies. My mistake, that's because now Jochen Hahn's time gets removed. So Sascha Lenz up into second place. He didn't improve on that lap either, did Sascha? He was nearly a second, well over a second slower actually. Did a 158.1. Funnily enough, he did the identical same time as Andre Kurzim and Jamie Anderson as well. 1:58.133. Seems to be the lap time to get today, that one. So Sasha Lenz moves up to second. Jochen Hahn having his lap time deleted and drops down to third. Albacete remains fourth. So yeah, I'm just checking the times, and it was definitely Antonio Albacete's previous lap, not his fastest one, that got removed. So he remains there with his 1:57.147. So he will stay in fourth place. Steffi Halm finishes in fifth place in that session with Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, and someone that unfortunately didn't make it through to Superpole due to a failure earlier on was John Newell. He's going to be down there with Lena for a quick chat on what happened at the end of the session.
Yes, he is. And me being a mechanic, I'm like, oh man, this is gonna be a big work. But John, just show the audience for yourself what's been going on with your truck.
Yeah, it's just the rose joint on the steering arm what's gone. So it's a 10-minute fix, really. It's just annoying, that's all, because we were 1.1 seconds up, easy into Superpole. So, but that's racing.
Well, I will show you exactly. Like we can point with the camera down there. So something of the steering broke. Do you think it's like the Zolder itself that is like eating the trucks?
Yeah, definitely. It's hard on the trucks, and there's a lot of curbs that you have to take, and that puts pressure on the steering, and that's what causes the issues.
Okay, that means for you, starting from the back somewhere, maybe, you had a quite good season. This is your first full season this year. You did really well in Misano. So what were you aiming for normally in Belgium?
I was hoping for about P8, P9, which we would have been then, and get back into the swing of it, because the last 2 or 3 events have been a bit poor for me, but it's starting to come back now.
So you have to do it like Mark did it yesterday, and like Norbert did it, just like come from the back into the middle, and then just be happy at the end.
Yeah, that would be really nice.
All right, so mechanics, come here, get that truck fixed. We have like 1.5 hours now, and then this has to be, he said it's 10 minutes, so that's going to be easy. I can help you, no problem.
No problem.
So back to you, Chaz.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The multi-talented Lena van der Mars, everybody. Not just a great presenter, but of course getting on the spanners as well. She is a mechanic, so she certainly knows what she's doing in that regard. And yeah, it's great to see that John is still positive about the race coming up and knows that they can put a good effort in and get that time on the board. And as a driver as well, even though the lap wasn't completed, he knows that there's still time in the truck. He can still find time over the course of a lap to improve and get quicker and quicker, so he knows roughly where he can be in the field if the race goes his way. And obviously we wish John all the best for the later race. There is Steffi Halm's number 44 machine, Tim Frost making his way down the pit lane also, and now the trucks will head back into the paddock after completing that Superpole session and rounding out qualifying for the first race of the day, third race of the weekend. Getting our next day's racing properly underway. We will have our other broadcast for the first race of the day a little bit later on, just starting around 12:30, just before that actually, as we get racing for round 23 here at Zolder. This is what your grid will look. Apologies, everybody. Apologies, everybody. Seems like there was some sort of connection issue there between myself and the facility at the circuit, but it's Norbert Kish on pole position with Sasha Lenz alongside him. Jochen Hahn and Antonio Albacete both having their lap times deleted from that second row, but they will still start there. We've got Stephanie Halm in 5th place with Jose Eduardo Rodriguez, another great qualifying from him. Andre Kurzim and Jamie Anderson will line up together on the 4th row, and Stefan Faas and Louis Requenco will complete the top 10. I believe, though, we will have Heinrich Clemens Hecker in 10th position, actually, because he had his lap time deleted and obviously got the black and orange flag from qualifying, so I think he will still take his place in 10th position there because of the fact that he made it through into Superpole. So I fully expect we'll see Louis Riquenco starting from 11th on the grid. Behind him will be Mark Taylor in 12th position, John Newell in 13th, and then Jonathan Andre will complete the grid in 14th position. As you see there, the race weekend fully underway here at Zolder. It's a very busy weekend indeed, with a lot of different championships taking to the circuit. But we have our first race broadcast of the day coming up a little bit later on at 12:25, and we're really looking forward to that one, where we will have Norbert Kish starting from the front row yet again with Sasha Lenz alongside him. And then our final race of the weekend broadcast will come up just after. Apologies, I was saying 12:25, that's UK time. My apologies. It'll be about 1:25 in the afternoon local time to Zolder, and then just after 4 p.m. local time at Zolder we will have our final race of the weekend, round 24 of the championship here in 2023. Can't believe just how quickly the championship has flown by already this year, with just 2 race meetings left to go after this one.
Number 2 of race day number 2 and race number 3 to come at 1:25. So just come back to us in front of your television screens or at the live stream. See you in a second. Have a cool lemonade or whatever, and bear with us. See you in a sec.